Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Beyond the Track with Daniel Blair. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is episode number 52. Wow, we have knocked off a lot of these episodes. This one's going to be a fun one. And one of the reasons why is because I have so many questions on the path that led Brittany Marcotte to where she is right now. Brittany, thanks for joining me on Beyond the Track.
Thank you guys so much. I'm excited. I'm a huge fan. So let's have
Well,
some
cool.
fun.
We're gonna have a good conversation here, but I'm going to start this off with a question. Have you seen the movie Yes Man with Jim Carrey?
I will say I've seen bits and pieces of it.
Okay, so
I know of it.
So the theme of the movie is he says yes to like everything, and he just does things, and whatever it is, he does that. He just can't say no, right? It's part of his therapy. Now,
Right.
that's kind of how I live my life. I'm kind of like a yes man. I do everything that comes my way because why not?
I love it.
Well, researching you, it's like the same thing. You do so many different things. I know you do endorsements for a lot of products, Monster Jam, Marvel, motocross racing. I mean, you're all over the place. So I love it. And I want to get into every one of those things. But it made me think of that movie because do you say no to anything when it comes to extreme sports or stunts? Have you ever turned anything down?
Oh man. Well, obviously no, I haven't, because here we are. Two
Yep.
wheels, four wheels, stunts, like all this crazy stuff I've gotten to do. But the biggest thing that I feel really lucky that I'm even in this position is because it all came from dirt bikes and just having that, the addiction to adrenaline, really. So
Right.
I've kind of taken that, and any opportunity that comes up that kind of keeps me out of working at a desk job, if you will. I'm like, yes, I will do it. I will do it. I will do it. So uh yeah, pretty much yes to anything extreme for sure.
And no to the desk job. No to the
Yeah,
desk
I
job.
will say
Okay.
no to a desk job. That is one
Okay.
thing I could say no to.
Same here. Same here. Okay. So I want to do is I just kind of want to walk this path. And you said the motorcycles definitely kind of opened up all these doors, right? But I want to know how that
Mhm.
all began, how it started, because I don't know your story. I know what you do, but I don't know how you got there. So kind of
Yeah,
take me through those younger years as a kid. Like what inspired you to even step foot in the direction of the path that you're living now?
totally. So actually, I got kind of started in dirt bikes a little bit later. I didn't get a dirt bike till I was 11. I also have a twin sister, so my poor parents, it was two of everything. So imagine not even just spending a bunch of money on one dirt bike. Now we got two dirt bikes, which turned into four dirt bikes. You got a practice bike, race bike, blah blah blah. Anyway, so my sister and I were always into any crazy sport, usually very abnormal for girls too, which was like we wanted to play hockey, we wanted to play football, we wanted to be running outside, just doing all this crazy stuff. And for our 11th birthday, my dad was like, "Do you guys want to try a dirt bike?" And of course, we were like, "Yeah, dirt bike, cool!" Like,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
right,
we're
yeah,
in.
yeah, exactly. I was like, yes to that for sure. So for our 11th birthday, we got some really crappy like weird cheapo dirt bikes. I think my dad was kind of like, "Oh, we'll just get these cheap ones, see if they like it or not." And as you can imagine, we got the bug instantly. So we started riding every single weekend. We actually started breaking the bikes that my dad had gotten us because we were just, you know, going kind of hard on them. And so then by the time we turned 13, we actually started racing just locally. And we grew up in SoCal. So we were at, Paris, hot summer nights, Star West back in the day. We actually started to learn how to ride at a motocross track. So that we were kind of where we started was at the mecca really of motocross. So we never really started riding in the desert. The first time I swung a leg over a bike was on a dirt bike track. So that kind of started there when we were 13, started racing, and it kind of just one thing led to another. We were kind of encouraged to try a national, and all of a sudden we're like deep into the amateur national circuit. So we're going to Ponca, we're going to Texas, we're trying to go to Loretta's. And so that was kind of from the age of about 13, 14 till about I believe 17, and I had gotten enough points to turn pro when I was 18. Then here comes Brittany turning 18. I'm like, yes, let's go pro, let's do this and that. And as you can imagine, it's making money in motocross is slim to none, if you will. So once I turned pro, you know, my parents helped me for about a year, and then it was kind of you know, all right, Brittany, you got to support yourself. So that definitely got hard. I will say I did get to race X Games in 2013, which was pretty much the highlight of my career, because that was like a dream of mine. Which actually that was at the Staples Center in LA. So which we'll get to this later, but it was pretty cool that I got to do Monster Jam a couple weekends ago at the Staples Center too. But anyway, so pretty much got to race X Games in 2013, and then the following year, I believe, so the WMX kind of took a turn, and it's kind of going away. We were trying to figure out what's going on with it, but I had gotten an opportunity to audition for a stunt show. And I had no idea what the stunt show was. I was like, you know, it would pretty much get a paycheck every week to ride motorcycles. So to me, I was like, bing, yes, I will do that for sure. So I did this audition, which the audition was kind of funny. It was actually like a fight audition. So we had to like do this fake fighting for, you know, on camera, and that was the audition. And to me, I'm like, this is really weird, but okay.
Yeah.
Because they were looking for female riders. So anyways, long story short, come to find out it was obviously through Feld, and they were looking for female riders for the stunt show called Marvel Universe Live. And that started in 2014. So that was kind of the end of my, you know, serious racing career, if you will. So yeah, now all of a sudden 2014, I'm on this touring the world on this stunt show, dressing up as, you know, some Marvel characters, full wig, makeup, the whole nine, like stuff that you just, if you would have told me this when I was 15, 16, I would have been like, no way, I'm not putting this leather costume on and doing show makeup and all this stuff. But anyway, so now we're doing the stunt show. It's 2014. I toured with them for 5 years. So I got to travel the whole world doing the stunt show, and we did like, we did motorcycle stunts, like crashing motorcycles, wheelies, nose wheelies, you know. I got to do some other stunt stuff like high falls, a lot of fighting, just random kind of fun stuff that, you know, of course my brain it loves all this stuff. So super fun. So then in 2019, I'm giving you the quick rundown here. 2019, my time kind of comes to an end with Marvel Universe Live. And of course they were like, oh, you got auditioned for Monster Jam. And funny story, I will say, at first, because I had just toured, like when we go on tour, you don't come home. You go, you live out of a bag, you're hotel to hotel to hotel. And so even then, like I didn't really get to ride my dirt bike that much. But so come 2019, I was kind of sick of touring, to be honest. And so when they had brought up Monster Jam, I was like, do I want to go back on tour? You know, I was kind of thinking it. But again, my brain was like, you have to do it. I mean, you can't turn down auditioning at least to drive in a Monster Jam truck, right? So I do the audition, and that was super fun. But again, nobody goes into a Monster Jam audition being like, oh, I have tons of experience driving a Monster Jam truck, right? Like,
yeah, nobody does. Yeah, at home I do it on the weekends.
Yeah, and I literally drive a Ford Ranger at home, like the smallest truck you could possibly drive. So anyways, I do the audition, and they had one seat available for the 2020 season, and it was super cool. I actually got the seat. So my first season with Monster Jam was 2020, which sadly got cut a little bit short because of COVID. But yes, long story short, that's kind of how I've sort of, I don't know. I feel like sometimes I'm in the right place at the right time and doing the stuff that I do. But yes, somehow now have landed a driving in a Monster Jam truck now on 4 wheels, as well as, you know, trying to pursue like stunt work too, doing stunts for movies and TV. So my life is just, my life is extreme to a T, that is for sure. But I love it.
And it all comes from a 11th birthday present on getting a motorcycle, which is fun. Okay,
exactly.
So all right, so perfect. So you just gave us kind of like the timeline of run. So I want to dive into a couple of things along the way to make it all kind of glue together.
Yes.
In those younger years when you're starting, obviously it sounds like you're a thrill seeker and all the things you like to do. So you're obviously driven to enjoy that process, but were you competitive? Was there a competitive spirit along the way too? Or you wanted to be the best, you wanted to win? Or was it more like I enjoy doing it all? I guess walk me through that part of it, at least where you were competitively.
Oh yeah. I'm very, very, very competitive. Like to anything that we do in life. It could be, I don't know, if trying to see who gets the laundry done the quickest or folds the clothes the fastest. Like I am
Everything's
so
a race.
competitive. Everything's a race. Yeah, everything's who can do it the best, blah blah blah. So racing even on an amateur circuit, I as much as I wanted to win and do well, like I didn't have a lot of championships to my name. I got to go to Ponca a couple years in a row, and I would podium there, which was cool. Loretta's, I went to Loretta's one time, and I didn't even do that great at Loretta's, to be honest. I had a little bit of bad luck on my side, but so everything I went into, I was very like extremely competitive about it. And so financially it's kind of hard too. I mean, like I said, with having a sister, my parents were trying their best to get us the bikes that would work, stuff like that. So as you know, there's a lot of factors that come into play with it, but nonetheless, I was all in. I was so boring in school because I never went to parties, I never went to football games. It was always, I got to go race or I got to go ride. So that consumed my life really. But I'm thankful for it now because, like I said, not so I don't have, all the championships and stuff that I would have wished that I could have gotten, but there was no lack of effort, that's for sure. And now it's kind of, I've still been able to take those experiences and the racing mindset, if you will, into everything else that I kind of get to do and try. Like I said, even with Monster Jam, like you gotta first off probably be like a little crazy to do this kind of stuff, but also have that race mentality of like, okay, we're going to kind of give it 110% in everything that we do. And even if it's really hard, you've never done it before, you just go all in with it, if you will. So
Right.
yes, very competitive growing up, that's for sure.
Now, I'm a big believer in like the dominoes got to drop, right? And in order to get to some dominoes, something had to hit it before. So obviously your
Right.
path, everything led to the next thing. I guess my question would be, was it challenging for you to leave that competitive spirit and go into a field where you were performing as like, I mean, you're an actress, obviously, you were
Right.
acting, fighting, and you were dramatizing scenes, but also getting to do what you love on the physical side, which is ride the motorcycle. Was it a little hard to shut the switch off and go from like, I want to
Mm.
win to I need to perform, but it's not to be the best, it's just to be the best me, I guess. You have to beat yourself. Then there was no competition. You're beating yourself maybe the night before, but was that a little bit hard to shut that switch off and go from being a competitor to a performer?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because like you said, it's kind of like if we're going onto the stage now, if you will, opposed to the racetrack, you're on a stage. So now it's like doing the best you can, giving the best performance, which is the same performance or the same choreo every time. So
Right.
and I think that's what helps having that competitive mind too, is like you said, kind of going out and trying to better your performance each time, and kind of put on a better show. Which in my case on Marvel Universe Live, it was kind of like, okay, when I go out and do the specific motorcycle stunts I have to do, like how can I make them better or more precise every time? Or how can I better, my character acting, if you will, which that going from, an athlete where you kind of just had to focus on yourself, you put your helmet on, you do your thing, now to where you have to perform in front of thousands of people, with a full costume on and be a character, that honestly was very challenging for me. It took a lot of practice, a lot of acting classes, if you will. So yeah, even with the with Monster Jam, like it's kind of fun because you're still putting on, it's a performance, you're putting on a show, you're there to entertain. So there's a kind of a mix now of like still being competitive. They're real competitions in at Monster Jam, but at the same time finding that fine line of like, well, you can't just, tear it up out there and start hitting walls and getting crazy, So which Marvel Universe Live had kind of helped me learn how to channel some of that. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense to me because again, you start your life as a competitor, then you have to go into performance world and fine tune that.
Mm,
It seems like to me, Monster Jam would be kind of the bridge in between where you are performing, you are on a stage, you're there to put on a show for the crowd, but you get to also compete and have like a little bit of that inner drive, rivalry, try to
Oh
beat
yeah.
other people. So I'm fast forward. I have some questions about Marvel I want to ask, but do you feel like now you're in that perfect world where it's like I've mastered the art of performing, but now I get to be competitive again, and now I found like that perfect lane for me?
Oh yeah, yeah, heck yeah. And that's like I'm thankful for Marvel Universe Live kind of training us in that sense because like you said, now Monster Jam's kind of like, okay, you get to be you get to be Brittany Marcotte in the zombie Monster Jam truck. We want you to do really good. And again, your limits, right? And so yes, it's kind of putting it all together now. It makes it fun, challenging still because I get again very competitive and I'm new at Monster Jam. Like I'm a rookie, so I'm driving against the top drivers that have been driving
Right.
for 100 years, and so I naturally
Whoa,
get out
whoa,
there and
whoa.
I'm
100 years. They might offend a couple of them out there. I know what you're saying. There's some that have been in there a long time, but Brittany, 100 years, you
I
might
know
get a little
don't
pushback from some of your competitors with that
I know
comment.
now I'm nervous. I take it back. I take it back.
50
Don't hate me.
years. 50 years. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. So back to Marvel. So I took my son to, it was in Fresno. I'm pretty sure it was in the Fresno Save March Center.
yeah.
He was a little guy. He was just like blown away. But what was it like on the backside? You always talk about going behind the curtain.
Mhm.
What was it like being on that tour and traveling out of a bag and being with the same cast of characters? I have to imagine they become your friends, but and I know those aren't easy because you would be doing multiple shows a day. So it's not like you're just cruising and doing a little thing. Like I know those were hard. So kind of take me behind the curtain a little bit on what it was like to travel and tour. And I mean, again, and be pushed pretty hard. I know you guys didn't have it easy.
Yeah, touring, I will say touring is not for everybody. They're actually from start to finish, 2014 to 2019, there had only been, I think there were about 5 or 6 of us that had started from the beginning and made it to 2019 because there's such a turnover rate. I mean, I think a lot of people think, "Oh, touring's fun and, you get to visit all these cities and this and that," but it's really challenging, like you said. I mean, it's you really have to sacrifice a lot of home life or even events that are happening at home because you are on tour, and it's not like you can just kind of, take a weekend off or take a couple days off, like, you are living out of a bag, confined to going from city to city, and it definitely gets challenging. I mean, I really like to work out and eat healthy and do that whole thing, and that was a whole learning curve being on tour too, learning how to, we would literally travel like a mini kitchen and try to, cook in our hotel rooms, whether if you're allowed to or not. And we would even at one point we traveled bicycles, so we had big, like huge bicycle bags that we would travel from city to city just so we can have something to do on some of our days off. So it's definitely a lifestyle that takes some time to get used to. Like I like to kind of compare it to like college life almost. I started tour when I was 21, and I actually never I kind of went to college but didn't last very long. It was a community college, so when I jumped on tour, it was kind of like, oh man, you can kind of you can, but you can sort of jump into like the party side of touring, or you can take it a little more serious and focus on doing good at what you do. And that was a little bit more my mindset, if you will, just because you come from racing, so it kind of transfers over. But it's you can only do that for so long because after the first year, kind of goes by fast and you're getting used to tour and you can party and do fun stuff. But man, and second year comes along and you're kind of like, okay, we're still going, we're still traveling. Third year comes along and you're like, wow, this is it's just kind of the norm almost.
Yeah.
And then 4 or 5 years, so yeah, it's very taxing, if you will, like mentally too. You don't really get to see your family that often. You're stuck traveling with the same people that you literally live with, you eat with them, you do work with them, so you see people constantly, which is a whole nother thing. And yeah, like you said, we'll do 7 shows a weekend, sometimes 8 or more shows. So it's super repetitive, which, you know, that'll get you after a while. But
Once, I mean, yeah, once you get going, it becomes like the routine, right? You kind of clock in, clock out, you're doing your thing, but you guys don't show up at the first show and just wing it. Like there's a lot of prep that goes in. What is that like? Is it like a boot camp type thing where I'd have to imagine that there was less partying going on then, because you really got to get this thing together before the
oh
first
yeah.
show. And then take me into like the first show every year. Is the first one like a mess, or you guys nail the first one? Because I have to imagine that's tough to go from prep to, okay, there's people here and it is go time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like that we would have months of rehearsals up to the first show, right? But at the same time, even, I mean, there's deadlines. So when you get to that time where you got to perform and it's your first show, like sometimes you're still working out some of the kinks in the show. And let alone finding, you know, the fine line of being able to do movie quality stunts at a live show, which is, it's hard. I mean, we did a lot of really cool stunts in the show, and you know, so safety is obviously a big thing with it. So and sometimes being able to do it perfectly every time, that it just takes practice, it takes repetition, stuff like that. So yeah, sometimes the opening shows were a little wild, you know, but we had so many, like all of us on the cast, even the crew, I mean, we are like top level. I mean, we would have people from all different disciplines that were at the top of their discipline coming together to put on this show. So, you know, it wasn't a lot of times where it was like, oh, this is really sketchy. You know, it wouldn't be like, you know, putting an amateur on a supercross track all of a sudden. I mean, it might be a little squirrely, and that kind of, I guess.
But you could do it. But
bit.
you could do it clean.
Yeah.
And again, you guys you're trained to do it right, not just, well, I hope you don't need like two or three, like, yeah, you need like everyone to be with it. Otherwise I could imagine it being dangerous. I mean, we don't need to get into the details here, but this is just curiosity on my part.
Yeah.
Was it hard? Was there sometimes maybe people you didn't get along with, where you're like, I'm on tour and I got to eat breakfast and I got to do it with someone, and maybe there's not like a problem, but someone that maybe just doesn't fit with your character? Yeah. I mean, I have to imagine there had to have been some of that.
Yes, yeah, there was. You know, you get your drama every once in a while. It's like going to, I don't know, it's like going to camp or something when you're little, but you know, you go to camp for a week and then you find the people that you maybe click with or you don't, but now you're going to camp for a year. So you kind of either learn to just deal with them and be coworkers, or sometimes it can be a little more difficult for other people. But you know, that's why I'm saying sometimes tour life is just really not for everybody. Like we'll have a lot of people that come and do one contract, which is, you know, maybe almost a year long. And at the end of it, they just, you know, wasn't for them. They couldn't handle it, or, you know, maybe they had something else that they liked better. So that definitely did happen. And I think the people that could kind of survive it longer, we just figured out how to, the short times that we were away from everybody, you know, you kind of just figure out how to disconnect yourself for a little bit and kind of reset every day you go in. And so, I mean, that's all stuff that you learn too. I mean, the first year, like I said, was a very big learning curve.
I'd have to imagine. I mean, you're taking in a whole new world, like you said, something brand new. It gets more routine as it goes, but then that kind of leads me to the question of the end. Obviously this is a job and it's fun, it's challenging, but it's a job. It pays the bills. Like that's what fills up your bank account. Yep. What about when this was all coming down to an end? Are you like, oh no, like did you have opportunities that you wanted to get into? Was this like a hard stop sign where it's like, what am I going to do now? Because again, you have the responsibility to yourself to pay for life, and this is all coming to an end. What was that period like? Was it pretty challenging?
Yeah, you know, it's hard. It was so towards the end, so there was a first version of the show that you probably came to see, and then they had revamped it and made like a sequel to it, and so we did that for the last 3 years. So they were going to take it back overseas, like in 2019 or beginning of 2020. I kind of forget, but and at the second show, that second version of the show, there's actually only 2 female riders in it, which was myself and Louise Forsley. And so there was kind of a little bit of a pressure on us, because it was really difficult to find any other female rider that could do what we were doing in the show. It could certainly be trained, but you know, it was kind of a really unique skill set that you needed for it. And
Hmm.
we had found two female riders in Europe that actually replaced us for when we did take a step back from tour. But it was hard because you know, after all that time and experience, you just know the show so well. And so,
Right.
you know, it was challenging to come to them and say, you know what, this is going to be our last year. Let's start looking for replacements for us, sort of thing. So that was kind of the difficult part. I think that's why we still stayed for so long, is because we, you know, we're very passionate about it. It's our work that we had put into it. And the cool part is, being with the show for so long, we got to have, you know, kind of a say in what the stunts were, what we could do on the motorcycle to kind of help with the story and the stunt stuff like
Yeah.
that. So you feel like a, you know, personal connection to it, if you will. So
A little bit of
yeah,
a
coming,
producer, kind of. You got to kind of start
yeah,
co-producing your own stuff because you're like, hey, I can do this instead of
yeah,
just tell me what to do. Was that? I'll kind of interject, but was that fun when
yeah.
you got to have a little bit of control in the storyline?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was fun because you know, it's like you can take what you're really good at with the motorcycle stuff, and now, you know, some people don't know what you can or you can't do on a dirt bike,
Right.
right?
Right.
So now it's kind of like, well, here's the story. We kind of want you to do this, this, and this, and then we can kind of say like, oh, this is cool, let's add this, you know, how do you like that, or let's put this in there. And so, and they would totally work with us on that, which was, it's exciting because, you know, not every cast member gets to go in there and start adding their own choreo to it, if you will. But with the motorcycle stuff, it's kind of a unique thing that they started to really rely on us to give feedback
Mhm.
and tell them what, like I said, what we can and cannot do. So so that was really cool, and it's a special thing because then you get to do it and you try to pass it on to the next riders and kind of give them that. So it was cool. It's definitely like I said, it was challenging to take a step down from it, but at the same time, you know, I really wanted to start getting into like movie and TV stunts, you know, like in LA, Atlanta, stuff like that. So, you know, there was some times where I actually had to turn down gigs because I was on tour. But then it kind of came to a point where it was like, okay, I got to make a decision to take a step back from tour, whether it be scary or not, because like you said, you're kind of giving up that security blanket of
Mhm.
having a paycheck every week, having benefits, blah, 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 the whole thing that, you know, that we need. Um,
Right.
so that was hard, but you know, but if I didn't do that, then, you know, I might not have been a part of Monster Jam. So like you said, sometimes one door closes so another one will open. And so as much as it was scary to finally be like, okay, I'm done with Marvel Universe Live, you know, I didn't even, hindsight's 2020 obviously, but come to find out, you know, now all of a sudden I got this opportunity. And so yeah.
It worked. It worked out. It worked out. Scary, but ends up. I feel like those are always scary, but then they seem to
Right.
work out. If you're driven, if you're a driven person, and you
Yeah.
again, like Yes Man, if you take
Yeah.
opportunities when they're thrown at you, they're not as scary because something does pop up. Now the Monster Jam thing does happen, but what kind of happens in between there? Did you get into this? I would just kind of take me through the stunt work stuff that you've done, the
Yeah.
opportunities there, and how is that? I mean, is that still currently going on too?
Yeah, yeah. So, you know what's funny is, as soon as I had gotten off of Marvel Universe Live, it was a really quick turnover to audition for Monster Jam because of the I sometimes months in my mind get all mushed together, but we
Yeah.
I kind of forget when it was, like maybe July or something that Marvel Universe Live ended, and then I believe it was September, late September, where all of a sudden it was like, hey, we're doing auditions for Monster Jam, you need to
Wow.
come
Okay.
now. So the turnaround was super short. And as you can imagine, I got off tour and I was like at home riding and doing some local racing and stuff just to get my fill. So yeah, that turnaround rate time was quick. And then once I got past the audition part, the next step was like, you know, a couple weeks later, and that took, you know, a couple months for training. And so that took me almost till, I believe, about mid-November. And then the Monster Jam season starts in January. So that pretty much filled up the rest of my time. But in between that, yes, you know, the stunt industry is hard. It's really hard to get into, you know, because it's such a small, tight-knit sort of industry, a very tight-knit community. So kind of I'm still, you know, slowly getting my foot in the door with it. So I've done a couple things. Actually am doing some stuff right now too, which is really exciting. But it's kind of like it takes that special skill to sort of get you in the door. And then once they know you can do, I mean, there's just not that many female motorcycle riders out there. I mean, there are, but then that want to be in this industry that,
Right.
have a certain look and blah, blah, blah. It's the typical Hollywood, like you need to be small and do this, this, and this. And it kind of fits my profile, if you will. So there's definitely like a need for, this might sound kind of weird, but a need for me out there in that
Right.
industry, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm kind of working on that right now and sort of seeing what I can and cannot do. Again, scheduling is kind of hard too with 100 things I've got going on, but
That's what I would imagine is, again, you being you have a lot of things going on. I have to imagine the calendar is just hard to make work sometimes and fit things in. And, oh, I want to do this, but I can't. Or I don't want to do this, but I need to. I mean, do you
yeah.
get much time off? Like, do you get any time off ever?
Yeah, yeah. Well, with COVID, I had like,
Oh, yeah. Wow.
especially, being in the entertainment industry, really, it was like 100 miles per hour to zero
Right.
for a long time, which during the COVID times where I didn't have any traveling, like no Monster Jam was going on, like stunts were pretty much shut down also, really. It was that actually gave me time to like go ride and race again,
Right.
which was great. But yeah, at the same time, I've gotten so used to like go, 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 travel everywhere, like you said, just yes to everything. So and then it was literally probably up until about a month and a half ago, give or take, where, all of a sudden Monster Jam came around and stunts were coming around and all the stuff
Yeah.
was just picked up again. So it's I will say the only good thing about the COVID times were just being able to go ride again and get back to that. And luckily there was racing going on too. So I was able to kind of jump back into that, and which was really nice because I had nothing but go ride. So that was cool.
Right, right. And again, you kind of you didn't abandon writing, but your writing was so strict on the performance. You were doing the same thing all the time.
Hmm.
So did it feel good to just be free and be like, I'm going to ride the way I want to, as many laps as I want to, where I want to, instead of just doing the same routine over and over? Was it like a just like the freedom? Like,
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Because it's like, oh man, you've done this your whole life, and you go out and that's so fulfilling to just go ride. Like even if it was just for fun. And truthfully, I almost feel like I ride better now because you're kind of forced to be out of it, and the only times you do get to go ride is pretty few and far between. But um so yeah, now when I ride, I'm like, man, I wish I could have ridden like this when I was an amateur. I feel like I would have done way better. But yeah, there's definitely that sense of freedom to go out there and just ride and just reset your mind. And not only that, but just go back to what you are really good at, because a lot of times especially with stunts or sometimes even Monster Jam or even the Marvel Universe live show, like there's times where you're just uncomfortable. Like sometimes the riding can be like a little bit uncomfortable because you're kind of trying new things, or I mean you're doing stunts, so a lot of it's needs to be really precise and technical. And then Monster Jam, it's so new to me that I'm still really trying to learn the technicality of it and this and that. So sometimes you're just constantly on edge a little bit because you're just new at it and you're
right.
constantly learning. So when you can do something that your mind and your body's so used to, which is riding dirt bikes for me on a motocross track,
Yeah.
it's like almost calming. So
Right. Now, so you race professionally, you get to do X Games at the Staples Center, and then it all comes around full circle. So kind of tell me about Monster Jam. And from what I understand, a pretty crazy weekend, a very successful weekend for Monster Jam, and you got to be a part of something pretty rad. But again, it's your story all in a big circle where you're back in the same building, but in a completely different environment. Just kind
mhm.
of just take me through it and some of the feelings you had there, and then the event itself. I heard it was awesome.
Yeah, totally. It's crazy because not only did I do X Games at the Stable Center in 2013, but fast forward to, I believe it was 2016 or no 2017. I actually got to do Marvel Universe live at the Stable Center also. So I got to race dirt bikes there. I got to perform doing the stunt show Marvel Universe live there, and then a couple weekends ago, got to do Monster Jam at the Staples Center. So my whole life is somehow makes its way back to the Staples Center in some form, which I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, just to perform at the Staples Center is a big deal. I mean, it's iconic. It's middle of LA. It's a Staples Center. Everybody knows the Staples Center. And then to be able to do it in like 3 different disciplines really is, you know, it almost didn't sink in really until some people were asking me about it and kind of telling me, and I was like, you're right. Like, this is really cool. Like, I've gotten to do like so many things at the Staples Center. So it was really exciting to kind of be there. And now with Monster Jam, I get to be myself, really. I get to, well, X Games I was obviously, but now it's kind of like with Monster Jam, they talk to you, they do interviews, like, you know, fans can really get to know you and stuff. And so I was, you know, I was proud of that. I thought it was really cool. It was kind of like my hometown arena, if you will. And now being there with Monster Jam was really exciting. And man, I will tell you though, the fans at the Staples Center for Monster Jam, every single show were so loud. They were crazy. Like, you know, again, I'm a rookie, so I'm kind of like, oh, hopefully get some rookie luck on my side, do some cool stuff. But any driver that went out and did anything big, the fans were like, they're like losing it. So I actually didn't know until now that was one of the most successful weekends Monster Jam had. But I believe it because it was packed. I think people were just really excited to finally go to a live event, you know.
Just get back out there and then of course see something. I think entertainment obviously has taken a big hit through all this, and it seems like whether it's concerts, sporting events, there's like this resurgence of energy. I mean, me personally, I can't even imagine what Anaheim 1 is going to feel like. I feel like the building might shake because people are so pumped to be back. What has it been like for you as far as on the Monster Jam side? Again, you're back kind of like in the world of where you're going to be touring and doing all that, but you're with a different group of people than Marvel's universe was. How's it been so far? Like, what's the vibe like with all the Monster Jam crew?
You know, what's funny is I almost feel like I fit in more with the motorsports side. I mean, for obvious reasons. But also, side note, with the touring with Monster Jam, we actually will fly to the arena or the city for the weekend, and then they'll fly us home. Which that right there is already a huge. That's a huge.
So you're getting to do both now. You get to be you at home and live some personal life, and you're not just like, I'll see you in 6 months. You actually get to live a little bit of both lives now.
Yeah, exactly. Which, you know, it's like the perfect combo because, like I said, I like traveling, I like going and doing my work, but then having, you know, even if it's just a short like Tuesday, Wednesday that I have at home, like I don't care how tired or jet lagged I am, I will go ride my dirt bike, I'll mountain bike, I'll kind of get normalcy for even a day or two, which to me is a huge deal since I had just toured for 5 years not being able to do that. So when I do get, even if it's a short period at home, like it's great. I love it. So I'll take it. And like I said, the motorsports side of Feld really is, I mean, that's my jam. That's what I grew up doing. And so everybody, we all get along. Any driver that I drive with, they're so cool. We're all super like-minded, you know, we're all very competitive. And they've all been super cool to me too. I mean, like I said, being a rookie in Monster Jam, it's intimidating, you know, because you're kind of going out there, and as much as I want to do really good, you know, I also am still learning. So to be able to drive with them and they have all been super cool to me, giving me, you know, tips and tricks and stuff like that has been, they've all been super welcoming. So it's a cool group. It's awesome.
Nice. Good transition into that obviously makes things better. 2 more questions for you. This audience is going to be a Supercross audience because this is Beyond the Track. I'm just curious if you're a racer, so it's in your blood. You're also been on the performing side now, so you know the art of having to be presentable and, you know, be there for the fans. As a fan of Supercross, like, who is your favorite riders? Like, who do you root for? Who is, like, after all your experiences, because you've kind of been through it all, you would be able to kind of dissect these riders and go, oh, that's the one, or that's the 2 or 3 that really do it for you. So who would be the riders that you are the biggest fan of coming from your background, which is, again, very unique?
You know, I have to say Cooper Webb is it just because he's such a good racer, like mentally, and he's a champion for a reason. And I love that no matter, what's happening at the beginning of the race, the middle, or the end, he just goes till the checkered flag. And I feel like I see that, and I admire that a lot because oh, man, I mean, as you know, like this, anything can happen from the start to finish. That's a lot of laps that they put in, and so yes, I always root for Cooper Webb. I'm not going to give him too much flack for his outdoor season quite yet, but
Oh,
but
I
yeah,
will. He sucks this summer.
yeah,
He knows it. He knows it too. I'll
I
say it.
yeah, it's like, oh man, I'm rooting for him, and I feel like he's slowly getting back to his normalcy there. But man, the turnaround time from Supercross to outdoors was quick. So I don't want to, I understand it a little bit, but man, it's yeah, I think I'm a huge Cooper Webb fan for sure.
So as I'm learning more, about you and that competitive spirit that exists, the rider you like is like probably the most competitive one, again, because there's other ones that can perform on the mic or have that presence, but you gravitate towards the one who just wants to compete and win. So I get it.
Yeah, so I'm like, even I was thinking like, oh, Adam Cincerillo, like he's great too. He's almost more like he could be a commentator one day for sure. Every time we see him talk.
He's going to be. He's told me. He's DM'd me and said he's
Really?
told me keep the seat warm for him until he gets there and gets me fired. That's what he's told me. So he will
great.
be
I
a
can see it.
commentator and a performer someday,
Yes.
no question.
All right, good. I see it every time. I'm like, man, he would make a great commentator, and yeah, I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Okay, so last question, and this kind of brings us full circle again, like the movie Yes Man. You're just like, bring it on. Like, I'll do it, whatever.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? Like, you've done a lot, but obviously you don't seem like you're slowing down, and it doesn't seem like you're going to stick to one thing forever. So as we just look into the future, is there a bucket list? Is there things you want to do, things you want to get into? Or are you at that stage where you're kind of just taking it all as it comes and saying yes to whatever opportunity comes out? I mean, can you see the future at all and what you want to do?
Yeah, it is kind of crazy just living it right now, doing all the stuff that I get to do, which is really fun. And sometimes I have to, do one thing and then shift my focus to the next thing. And then, so sometimes right now it's easy to kind of like live in the moment and focus on these things. But, it's hard to really pinpoint exactly what I want to do. I think, just trying to put all these skills that I'm learning right now together and make something of it is like, being in the stunt industry where you never know kind of what they're going to ask you to do is sort of what I think my life is sort of pushing me towards, and being able to have all these opportunities, like doing stunts on Marvel Universe Live, obviously my dirt bike background, now adding Monster Jam to the resume. It's like all these crazy things I've gotten to do. I feel like, it'd be cool to do something like that in an industry like doing stunts, because it's the perfect combo of doing the stuff that I love, adding that extreme factor to it, and also having it always be different, so that's kind of, I think, hopefully I can make my mark in that industry more so in the upcoming years. But right now it's been really fun to I love when people ask me what I do for a living, because you could see me at a grocery store and you would never be like, oh, that girl drives Monster Jam or even rides a dirt bike, so yeah, I think right now I'm just having a lot of fun, and just putting all my energy and effort into the things that I get to do right now, and just taking it all in. Really, is I know one day I'm going to look back and it's going to be kind of like a small little bits of my life that I'm like, wow, that was really cool. So man, yeah, just anything extreme at this point, I'm like, sign me up, I will do it.
I love it. I'm excited to see what happens next, because obviously you're driven, and I think with your talent, opportunities are going to come. That's no question. So
Thank you.
I'm excited to see what you do with it. And again, thanks for coming on Beyond the Track and telling us more about yourself. Sounds like you've lived a very fun life so far, and it's been fun to talk about it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you guys. It's really truly been an honor to be a part of this, and kind of tying all my passions together and talking about it. So thank you. It's been a lot of fun.